I made this entire Osprey mask with just one click, and this is not using Lightroom's Select Subject tool. Most photographers actually waste a lot of their time masking wildlife photos using the wrong selection tools. So today, I will show you a faster and more efficient way to get cleaner wildlife masks in Lightroom with fewer missed feathers and incomplete selections. Alright, so this is the first photo we are gonna work on. You can find the masking options by clicking on this circle icon in the toolbar just below the histogram. So this first image is where Select Subject starts struggling a bit. Clicking on this person shaped icon in the first row will select the subject. As you can see, Select Subject did a pretty good job here, but still there are a few areas that got selected which actually shouldn't be. Lightroom's Select Subject tool works using AI, so sometimes it can get a little confused, especially when branches are in focus near the bird. That's probably why some parts of the branch also got selected while a few focused areas in front of the bird were left out. Also, if you look carefully, a small part of the bird's beak is actually missing from the selection, while the gap between the beak got selected instead. Another area where the selection struggles is around the feathers near the branch. You will notice small inaccuracies in places like these quite often when using this method of subject selection. We can fix this using the brush tool, but honestly, why do all the extra work when the object selection tool can do a much better job here? So, to create a mask using the object selection tool, just click on create new mask and then choose select object. The select object tool gives us two ways to make the selection. The first one is the brush option, where we can simply paint around the subject we want to select. And the second one is the rectangle option, where we can just draw a box around the subject and the Lightroom's AI automatically detects and selects the objects inside it. Let's start with the rectangle tool, since it's much simpler and faster to use. To use it, just drag from one corner of the subject to the diagonally opposite corner. And as you can see, this mask is already much cleaner and more accurate than the previous one. The beak got selected perfectly, and even the gap between the beak was left unselected exactly as it should be. Although most of the mask looks really good, a few parts of the branch still got selected, and that's completely normal, since the object selection tool also uses the AI to detect and separate the subject from the background. So now, let's create one using the brush mode. Click on create new mask again, choose select object, and this time select the brush option. With the brush option, it's important to paint over the subject properly and also go a little beyond the edges while painting. As you can see, the results from both the brush and the rectangle modes are almost identical. Now, if we compare these masks with the select subject, you can clearly see the select object did a better job in both modes. It's still not absolutely perfect, but it definitely reduces a lot of manual brush work needed for a precise subject selection. The second photo we are going to work with is a slightly different case, since the subject is already well separated from the background. So, let's start by seeing how select subject performs on this image. As you can see, select subject did a really good job on this image overall. However, there are still a few small issues with the mask. Some areas between the osprey's feathers got selected when they shouldn't have. And there are also a few unwanted parts selected between the claws and the half-eaten fish it's holding. These over-selected areas in the mask can become quite noticeable when we start pushing the exposure or saturation. That's why creating a clean and accurate mask is so important for wildlife photography. Coming back to the select object tool, let's create a new mask and choose select object. Since the subject is fairly well separated from the background in this image, the rectangle tool works perfectly fine here. As you can see, the selection on this image is almost perfect. There's no unwanted selection between the feathers, and even the gaps around the claws and the fish have been handled correctly. If I switch between the select subject mask and this one, you can clearly see how much better the select object tool performs when used on the right kind of image. To make the difference easier to see, let's change the mask overlay type. Just click on the three dots here to view the other overlay options. Personally, I find the white on black overlay to be the easiest one to work with. You can clearly see how well the object selection tool has done here. Just look at the feather edges. The selection is incredibly clean and detailed. Looking back at the select subject result, you can clearly see where the object selection tool has the edge. Okay, so this is the last image for this tutorial, and as you can see, this is an interesting image, to be honest. This is a Bhutan flying squirrel from Pangolaka Wildlife Sanctuary, and this image is especially interesting because, as you can see, there's a big branch that is covering up and dividing the whole body of this giant squirrel into two parts. Images like this, which can be challenging for both humans and AI, are often where select subject starts to struggle. If I use the select subject here, you can see that it has actually missed a large part of the giant squirrel's tail from the mask. If I switch the overlay mode, you can see that the selected areas are displayed with a semi-transparent mask, making it not useful at all. And also, leg part of this giant squirrel is not selected. It has been selected very vaguely. So yeah, as you can see, the subject mask did actually a very terrible job here, and Lightroom completely misses the tail part. Now let's try with the object mask. So trying with the object mask, I will go with the rectangle tool only and try to select a good amount, and let's see what it does. As you can see, this did such a good job. Like, it is actually such a good one. And Lightroom understands the entire animal so much better. It didn't even consider this whole branch. And as you can see, most of the subject has been selected really well, with accurate edge detection for most of the part. And since the overlay is not semi-transparent anymore, we can easily check how good the selection actually is. But if you look very closely, you will notice that a few of the fine feathers on top of the head were actually missed by the mask. Interestingly, select subject did a slightly better job in that particular area. And that brings us to an important point. This was never about proving that one tool is better than the other. For example, in this case, I can simply use the brush tool to add the few parts that were missed after creating the main selection with the object selection tool. This way, most of the heavy lifting is already done by the object selection tool, and I am only left with some few minor adjustments. That means less time spent manually adding or subtracting areas from the mask while still maintaining a high quality of selection. It's about understanding which tool works best for a particular image. Our goal as wildlife photographers is to get the most accurate mask possible while minimizing the amount of manual brushwork. The right tool is simply the one that helps us achieve that without compromising on mask quality. So, next time you're creating a mask for any photo, don't just click select subject and hope for the best. Take a few seconds to compare the different masking tools Lightroom gives you. Often, choosing the right tool from the start can save you minutes of manual brushwork later on. If this video helped you, do leave a like, it really helps the channel, and if you would like to see more wildlife photography and Lightroom tutorials, consider subscribing. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.